Hello everyone. So I just started playing some last Epoch recently and just wanted to showcase where I'm at. So currently I am level 84. I repeat the campaign and right now I'm doing this endgame content called monoliths. So monoliths is a system where you end up in this area and each monolith, which is these little time zones, it's an area that you can grind up and complete to fight different bosses or to get certain specific uniques. So the endgame content, as you progress, they get progressively more difficult, so the enemies start to get higher and higher level, and the last 3 is level 90. When you get to a monolith, so right here I'm on level 90, you get to this crystal area, click on the crystal, and you end up in a place similar to this. It's like a constellation. So you start off here, and basically what it is that you pick a path that you want to progress. The further from the center, the more difficult it becomes, and eventually you end up in an area that you can encounter this boss. When you kill this boss, it will reset your map, your entire constellation, and you do it again. But why would you want to do that? Well, you raise your corruption level. And what corruption is, it's similar to Nightmare Dungeon. So it's like, the more corruption you have, the more difficult the monsters are, the more health they have, the more damage they do, etc. And then you also get like more rewards, better drop rates, things like that. So the goal of the endgame system is to pick a monolith that you want to grind. Specific monoliths will drop certain specific uniques or items from the boss at the end of the monolith. So just to recap, you start off from the center, you pick a path. The further from the center, the more challenging it becomes, and you want to keep going as far as you can to fight these echo formation bosses. And when you fight the boss, it will reset your map. As you progress through your monoliths, fighting through these echoes, these dungeons, you have this meter here on the top. It's called stability. The more stability you have, the more you're able to get these quests right here on the side. So there's 3 quests. You have to progress them in order. The last quest allows you to fight a boss, and you need a certain amount of stability in order to do so. So right now I have 934 stability, and if I click on this, I believe it costs me about 650 for this area. So I could fight this boss, and I will spend my stability. I also have the option to reset this map and raise the corruption level. So I'm gonna raise the corruption level first, so it's right level 9. And then I'm going to fight the boss after. Okay. So this is part of the boss, the resetting the monoliths. Okay, so after you fight the boss, check on your portal, and what's gonna happen, you pick up your loot, and you go back to your map, it's gonna be reset. So all that progress I did, it just gets reset. But if you look in the top left corner, my corruption level increased, so now it's level 9. And so the end game loop is to progress as far as you can from the center. You fight that boss and you reset, and you keep repeating that until your corruption level goes up as high as you can. So eventually you get to the point where things start to one-shot you, or you don't do enough damage. But that is part of the end game, and the more corruption you have, the more rewards you're able to obtain. The other part of this is the stability, which I talked about. So the more stability you have, you're able to use that and buy yourself like a boss token. And so you complete the quest and you can fight the boss.
Lost refuge is gone, and I am all that is left. Die with me, true. My magic has no equal. Perish. Right. It's hopeless. Wretches. 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 My magic has no equal. Perish. What? It is hopeless. Burn, wretches, or it consumes all. Burn, wretches. Burn, wretches. My magic has no equal. Perish. Wait, it is hopeless. This nightmare
There we go.
finally over.
I am not a man of many pockets.
That is good. But right here you see my stability, it went down because I just fought the boss. And you just keep repeating that over and over. So you start from the center, you pick a route, you go up to the end, and you can fight the Echo boss, so you can reset and you gain your corruption. The other thing you're grinding for is for stability. Once you get enough stability, you do your quest and you can fight the boss again. And each monolith, so each zone, has a different boss that you can fight that has different rewards. The other thing to note is that the corruption is only tied to that specific monolith. So ideally what you would want to do is to pick one monolith and just grind it up as high as you can. And so what would happen is when you go to a new monolith, let's just pick over here. You don't have any corruption, but hypothetically, if I were to have a monolith, let's say I had corruption level 500, when I go to a brand new one and I repeat the process, I will have a catch-up mechanic that would allow me to catch up my corruption level equal to where I was on my previous monolith. So there is a catch-up mechanic for corruption if you have one that is significantly higher than the rest. And if you're wondering what build I used this fireball build. I kind of deviated a little bit from some of the guides that were posted. And this fireball build starts to scale pretty well. It does pretty good boss and AoE. And it's pretty fun, I would say, for sure. It starts off slow, but it starts to ramp up. And the more attack speed you have, the faster it goes. Obviously. The cool thing about this fireball build though is the piercing, which is how it changes the mechanics of how fireball goes. So what would happen is when it's pierced, 50% chance to pierce. My helmet has the other 42%. Ideally I would have a higher roll, but the more pierce chance it would have, what would happen is that the fireball will go through the target more often. But when you pair that up with this one, called Seeker's Ash, your fireballs seek nearby targets. Your fireballs will now turn around and hit the target again, so it kind of double dips. So that's a pretty cool mechanic right there. My meteor, what it does is that it applies a buff to me, so I get increased attack speed. I have increased fire penetration. It gives me mana, 6 mana for every time my fireball hits a target while I have this buff active. And meteor also recovers a portion of my mana. So currently my fireball costs 10, but if I have this meteor buff, Craterborn, I get 6 mana back. So it reduces my fireball cost pretty much to equal to 4. So that's how I'm able to sustain my mana pretty often. For teleport, or sorry about that, for warding, I have a buff whenever I press Flame Ward, or whenever I have Flame Ward active, I have an increased fire damage. My Flame Wards give me more barriers, and I have more damage reduction. Teleport gives me some damage and some resistances. And the Frost Wall, I change this to be a Firewall. And it gives me move speed, attack speed, and it also gives me Flame Shield or a Flame Ward. So typically this is only a 14-second cooldown ability, but since Frostwall doesn't have a cooldown, every time I go through it, I get a Flame Ward. So you see my barrier is it's very low. When I go through it, I get a good amount of Flame Ward by going through the barrier. So I could also cast it myself, or I could just go through my Flame Wards. And you're able to keep this going indefinitely as long as you have mana. Some of the passives I have here just fairly standard, I would say. So your passives, you have your base class up here, and then you have your subclasses down here. When you're level 20 in a campaign, you pick a class, a subclass, and you have full access to the passive tree. The other two classes that you didn't pick, you will only have access to half of the passives. Some of the passives from the other subclasses are pretty good, so you're able to obtain some of those passives to benefit your character. So for example, this Rune Master, I picked Arcane Focus early on, and so what this does is that every time I attack, I get a ward. Wards are just barriers, essentially. And it also gives me some attack speed, which is pretty nice. The gear that I have, that's not the best gear, but I'm still leveling, still progressing. So I have chance to pierce, increase spell damage. I have a staff, pretty nice attack speed and spell damage. We have this unique chest piece. This amulet gives me a fire penetration, which is pretty nice. Allows me to reduce the fire resistances of enemies. And this ring. This ring is also pretty nice as well. So you have a chance to gain a ward whenever you shock an enemy. And that also helps with your ward management. Your ward drains really fast if you don't have enough ward retention. So the more ward retention you have, the longer your barriers would last. And I believe that is all I have for now. I'm still learning the game, but so far it's been fun. Alright guys, well, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.